Sophia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So today I'm going to ask you a little bit about your interest in climate and your climate career trajectory. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do for work this summer.
Okay. So, hello, my name is Sophia Boyd. I am a rising senior environmental science major with a double minor in international studies and environmental health, attending Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm extremely impassioned about the climate action and climate activism, especially when it comes to greening the energy sector. I believe that the energy sector is the industry that we should focus on when it comes to creating a truly sustainable future. So I'm very passionate about climate education because I didn't know that myself until after my first year of college. And I came in as an environmental science major with lots of strong background in climate activism and environmental science activism. And so this summer, I'll be working with TCI as a LEAF fellow, and I will be the youth engagement fellow. So I'll be helping Ariel, who's the youth engagement lead, on different methods to get the student ambassadors more invested into climate action and to get better returns and to just create a better overall program for the future youth ambassadors when it comes to TCI and how to steward them towards pursuing careers in climate action or environmental science, but also just keep pursuing it in their everyday life.
Right. Well, it's cool because it feels like this fellowship has something to do with climate, but you're really like engaging with people. So tell me a little bit more about how that specifically, how like the skill set you're building here specifically relates to climate change and like, building a better future.
Mm-hmm. So I consider myself an extrovert and I love to talk to people. I think it's one of my greatest strengths when it comes to just talking to people, sharing stories, getting their story relating to them. And I think the number one way to make people care about anything is to let them know that it affects them too. I think that even though I don't think human beings are inherently evil, I think a lot of us are inherently selfish, and that's just the way that we're conditioned. And so the best way to get someone to truly care about an issue is to tell them how it affects them. And the environment is the largest public good. Everyone, everything, every organism on Earth is affected by the environment. So making sure that people are educated about, first of all, what is climate change? People have heard, I thought it was something regular, something cyclical. And that's true. But we got to add in the human-induced part of climate change or human-accelerated part of climate change. So what is the difference between those things? What are different careers in climate action? How can I, as a person who's on the internet and is uneducated in a formal setting, how do I know what's real and what's fake? And I think a lot of people get thrown off because they don't necessarily know if they can trust this source or if, this is just someone trying to lobby them to make donations. So I think it's really, really important that everyone in the world, especially young people, should have a baseline, knowledge of what climate change is, what climate activism is, what careers in the climate advocacy space looks like.
Awesome. So how did you, give me a brief version maybe of how you got into climate? Like why climate and why energy?
Mm-hmm. So I used to want to be an astrophysicist because I was in love with science and I was in love with the idea of space and exploring, the deepest depths of the universe. And as I got older, I kind of realized that, I became more educated in climate change and what that meant. And I started to realize that if humanity, is suffering throughout the next 100 years or even, let's not even say it, but if anything bad happens to humanity and our acceleration as a species, then space travel won't be possible for anyone in the future. And I want everyone to have, a very, very vibrant, sustainable future for millennia and millennia and millennia to come. Whether that means space travel, whether that means, everyone always having access to clean water and food and energy to further their own education. So that's why I turned more towards the energy sector, because I started looking more, as I became more educated in the actual science of environmental science and not just the activism aspect, I started to realize more and more, no matter how much pollution we clean out of the environment, no matter how many turtles we save from straws in the ocean, if the earth keeps heating up because of our fossil fuel usage and the greenhouse effect, then the pollution isn't going to matter. What's going to matter is the fact that there's going to be ecocide. So we need to address the root of the issue, which most of the time is energy, because everyone uses energy and we're not going to stop.
That's so true. So true. I like it because it feels like you're addressing something, the urgent need, so that other people have the opportunity for space.
Yes.
Because it is magical. Everybody,
Yeah. It'd be super fun, but we have to address our home first.
right. No, very true. Very true. Awesome. So what challenges have you faced in trying to get into the climate sector?
There's been quite a few challenges, I think. So, an African American woman, and we're underrepresented in the climate space in general. You start the last question.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say, okay, so what are some of the challenges that you faced in entering the climate career? Like entering us?
I think there's been quite a few challenges, but there's also been a lot of help and a lot of pathways. So I'm a Black woman, and we are extremely underrepresented in most STEM fields, especially environmental science and environmental engineering. So trying to find cohorts of people who look like me and also want to help and mentor people like me has been a bit difficult. Additionally, I do find, because environmental science and climate change and environmental activism has become such a highly politicized issue, that one, it's very hard to find objective sources that are not academic. So when people are reporting on climate change, it's a little bit disheartening to see that you can tell that there's been political agendas that have, been pervasive throughout the articles, and whether it's on any sort of political side, it's a bit disappointing, because it should be seen more as a scientific fact, as a human rights fact, not any sort of political tool. And finally, I do think that because it has been so politicized, there's a lot of people who are very, very resistant to even, learning about climate action or challenging their current worldview. And people get very hostile sometimes when you imply anything other than we're living in perfect comfort, which of course, it's another natural human reaction, but it can be kind of hard when you dedicate your life and your academic and your professional life towards fighting for something and trying to educate other people, and they pushed back with such vitriol that feels very disproportionate, because you're just trying to share scientific facts like, water evaporates, stuff like that.
Very true. Well, and I think that it makes sense that you would be doing this fellowship this summer, given some of that, because I think it's especially important to have many different voices represented, not just some of the same people that are talking about climate issues. So it makes a lot of sense that you would be working with people and trying to build advocacy and engagement and education around the climate problems. Last question for you. What gives you hope? What gives you hope in this kind of difficult space to work in?
There is so much that gives me hope. So even though being an environmental scientist can be a little bit depressing, it can also be the most hopeful thing in the world, because you realize that there are other people who are studying and they want to help the environment as much as you do. So any different type of innovations that are being made, like these different technologies to combat coral reef bleaching, or the progress when it comes to developing clean energy, like increased efficiency of solar panels, that gives me hope. Another thing that gives me hope is seeing people of all ages and all races, attending climate rallies, and people, just especially young people and people who are students or not even in college yet, they don't even know what they want to do with their life, express interest in environmental science and climate advocacy, even if they know, I don't want to be a scientist. No problem. Even if they're just like, I want to have a baseline knowledge of, our environment and what all these words being thrown around on TV mean. That is so, so encouraging to me, because I think as a collective, we all want what's best for the species and for the rest of the earth, because it's so beautiful. And seeing people kind of get out of our comfort zone and actually, do the action and do the work that will allow us to have that future is always super, super encouraging. And I really do see it every day.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your perspective, and thanks for taking time to talk with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and me and the fellow listeners wish you well in your climate career.
Thank you so, so much.